With us now, senior correspondent John Miller, former deputy director of national intelligence. Good morning.
Good morning, Charlie.
So who's to blame here?
I think this is clearly a straight-up leadership issue. Every airport, whether large or small, has a FSD, Federal Security Director. That's the person who's in charge of the overall security picture for the entire airport. That means everything from the perimeter fencing to the police operations and how that meshes with the fire operations to the screeners, but most directly the screeners. And this is a clear instance where you have a federal security director who was not out there on the line every day looking. When I was in Los Angeles, we had Larry Fetters. He was the federal security director of LAX. It's a huge airport. I couldn't go to LAX day or night. He must have had an apartment upstairs and slid down on a pole because
Yes.
he was omnipresent. But the screeners on the line know that. They know the boss is looking. So when they're not doing things like secondary screening, that's because the boss and the deputy aren't there on the line.
There are those who look at this as one more incident and say we really need to shake up TSA.
Well, this is, I don't want to put my federal hat on here, but this is kind of the curse of government, which is if you ignore the scandals till they boil over, that's one consequence. On the other hand, if you police yourself, so TSA in this case got a tip. This is a good news, bad news thing.
Right.
The good news is they cleaned up their own mess. The bad news is once you do that and it goes public, you know, you take a beating for it. But they got a tip from one of their own employees. Yeah. Then they did the audit. Now you can do that audit two ways. You can discreetly put people there on the line and watch who's doing what. Are they doing the secondary screening and the random? Are they doing the targeted ones? Or you can just, you see those little balls on the ceiling, there's cameras in there. They can just audit the videotapes and look at hundreds or thousands of encounters. Now, you had 3.8 million people go through that airport, and within the 2 months they looked 400 people that weren't screened. It's a tiny percentage, but in the era of the underwear bomber, where the only place you're going to find that is likely in secondary
So this is a
screening.
serious breach?
Yes.
Okay. Some people suggest maybe they should privatize TSA.
And I don't think it would make much difference, except that I think the amount of time you retain the employees would be lower, because private security doesn't keep people as long as government jobs. But in that case, the government would end up having to do the same thing. They would end up being the inspectors who watch those guys on the line.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Good to be here.